Go on social media now and start scrolling. I'm going to presume you are a professional wrestling fan, so your entire feed is going to be AEW did this and WWE did that. After a while, it just gets a little bit exhausting. You can even see arguments about wrestlers that have barely used, but that's what it's all been broken down into. If you do turn up on either company, all of a sudden you are fair game, and the bullets they start firing, you have to duck out the way. You then get into the whole, well, All Elite Wrestling doesn't tell stories, and then WWE will do something, and then other people will be like, oh, if AEW did that, everybody would go crazy. And you just want to go cry into a teacup. I don't even know who the target audience is anymore, because you're either doing it because you want someone to agree with you, or you're doing it to wind somebody else up, and then they do it back to you. So it's like taking a tennis ball and just smacking it into a wall. Better still, it's like Google mapping to your own house. You've achieved nothing. So now, from nowhere, let's go back to 2011. Because you did still have two different camps of people, but the world was very different. Because either one, you supported everything WWE did, and more power to you, or two, because they were the big leagues, you kind of just sat around going, please changed. You kept fantasy booking and fantasy booking and fantasy booking, and then nothing really changed. I would guess these folk also watched the likes of Ring of Honor, but again, WWE was the big time. So when all of a sudden CM Punk had a microphone and he started spitting fire, some individuals got very, very excited. As ever though, it wasn't one-sided, because instantly you did have the other side of the fence, and this was the John Cena support clan, who'd be like, well, let's all just come down, and let's not forget about Johnny Boy. Because given that he was the face of the WWE at the time, you absolutely had conversations like, we can't get too adult here, chaps. I mean, let's not forget about the sponsors that WWE is trying to attract right now. Like, that's the kind of things fans should be talking about, but again, it's the same today. You also had the millennial audience over here who had stuck around from the Attitude Era, and mostly that's where you got the Cena sucks chants from. But again, they just wanted the WWE they remembered. This brand new sanitized version wasn't for them. And sure, look, this was allowed, they had paid their money for a ticket, but because there wasn't another major game in town, they kind of camped up within a WWE venue. Once again, they just kept their fingers crossed and made a lot of noise. I mean, after all, the company was still touting, we want to put a smile on your face. They wanted to be included in that, and instead they were sad pandas. So basically, yes, while that phrase was still part of the lexicon, WWE was trying to serve two different masters here. At times, they just weren't very good at it. We saw that too in the sense that Vince McMahon was basically booking for Vince McMahon, and then there was Raw and SmackDown. Now, they had been separated in order to give you a different product, but let's be honest here, they were basically interchangeable, apart from one was blue and one was red. I mean, why do you think they tried to reboot ECW back in the mid-2000s or whenever it was? It's because they tried to appease this new group, and they failed again. So what may have happened in 2011 is all of a sudden McMahon was like, man, I'm really struggling to build a brand new superstar in the guys I enjoy going to. And while he had John Cena, well, he'd been going for almost a decade by that point, and you know how the cycle works. We did need somebody else, and it wouldn't surprise me if CM Punk was like, well, I'm really good for a microphone, and I know how to connect with the audience, so I'm gonna present something brand new, and if I do catch on, no one's gonna be able to stop me. I mean, he was basically agreeing with the audience. He told you, you're right, this place is not going to change, but maybe you and I can do it together. Now, what was actually happening is the company was going to ignore all of this, and they were going to build a brand new star and tell you to like them, and then we were all like, we're not going to do that, and we're going to pick somebody else. I mean, jump forward a few years, and you had Roman Reigns, who was in number 2 slot, and everyone was making noise I should say, it was Daniel Bryan. Now, of course, Roman had his supporters too. So guess where we ended up? Nobody was happy, because WWE was so scared about all the fans over here that did want Daniel Bryan, they never pulled the trigger properly when it came to Roman Reigns, but when it came to Daniel, oh my gosh, it was like pulling teeth. It also made the whole thing confusing, because it was like, why are we having a battle with the damn people behind the curtain? Which is why, if you took someone from this period and threw them into 2024, they'd be over the moon. You would then have to tell them too that this arguing is still going on, and to steal a line from myself, they would ask, why? Because in reality, when it comes to 2024, both these audiences are kind of being served. So let's start with AEW, because yeah, they did realize a lot of this changed. When Cena was flying high, his template, which was very successful, was to tell you that the match he was going to have that weekend was a big deal. I mean, sometimes WWE actually waited to the Raw that was 7 days beforehand, but John was so good on a microphone, you thought to yourself, maybe he's telling the truth. Now, AEW kind of went the other way, because they told you something was going to be major, because they had lots of violence. Or if you want to put it another way, it was how wrestling used to be. I mean, you want some blood? No problem. You want a technical masterclass? No issue. You just want a bunch of great matches on TV? We've got you. Even today where AEW does have its struggles, they're still happy to take Bryan Danielson and put him in front of 55,000 people at Wembley for All In and make him the AEW World Champion. And that was all done to make you feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. And that was unheard of when WWE did it a decade prior. Although, yeah, here, sure, Danielson had to be dragged into this, but wasn't it nice we had the opportunity? Jump over to WWE though, and yeah, these days it's the best version of itself, and the best it's been in years. I mean, Triple H taking over the landscape has basically seen him go back to the 2000-ish era and go, well, everything was working fine there. Why don't we just give a story to everybody and ensure our entire roster feels really important? I mean, everything matters now, so you can watch the whole show and let it digest in your stomach. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be rewarded down the line. Being the #1 promotion too means you get all the bells and whistles, so you can invest emotionally. It's why this conversation did get white hot back in 2021. It's only fair to say that the Vince McMahon version of WWE was struggling, and AEW all of a sudden was white hot. And it's also where this battle sparked, because of course the All Elite Wrestling diehards were then very smug, whereas the WWE diehards were super annoyed about this. So when it did switch, it was like, well, now we're going to troll you too. I mean, the I told you so crowd was so loud and AEW fans had to play defense. It was like they'd all kept these receipts, just in case. Even then though, AEW, when it comes to their pay-per-views, usually hits a home run. So why do we have then the same people going, oh man, WWE, when they do PLEs, only put on 5 matches? I mean, it's a fun debate to have, but these people aren't doing it with fun. They're doing it because they're pretending to be angry, even though they already have what they want. I mean, if you switch all of this, WWE shows are really good right now, and when Triple H did do it at NXT, it worked there too. So once again, everybody should be delighted. I mean, you can have your cake and eat it too, meaning all of this is just people yelling into the clouds. I mean, if you love yourself some sports entertainment, you are eating good right now, and if you want some old-fashioned pro wrestling, well, do I have the option for you? I mean, the fact that we're doing this on a mainstream level too is ridiculous. Believe you me, I'm old. That didn't happen for decades. And I get the whole us versus them thing too. It happens everywhere. I mean, it's Marvel and DC. You have the console wars. It was even going on in the 70s with the Beatles or the Stones. But if you were around in 2011, you were making a lot of noise. Now you have to shut up, because all your dreams came true. Somebody knocked on the door and went, would you like free ice cream? I have a vanilla cone for you. I mean, on either side, there are now several thousand people in a building, knowing exactly what they are going to get and being pretty pleased with it. I mean, we've even answered some of the dream questions from 10 years ago. What would WWE look like without Vince McMahon? And what would happen if WCW returned? Let me show you 2024. And again, this doesn't mean you can't be critical or negative. You can go crazy with that. It does feel like a lot of us have become forgetful so-and-so. I mean, just take a second to smell the roses. We haven't had it this good in eons. The truth is, nobody is going to stop fighting on either the AEW or WWE side, and they probably don't want that either, because it means we just ignore any issues we could talk about. Like I've already told you, we just make a lot of noise. And yes, I totally understand where it is coming from. You have decided to make your entire personality pro wrestling, so it doesn't go exactly where you need it to go. Well, you don't know what to do. Really, you need to find new emotions. For the rest though, make sure you ignore this discourse, and when it comes to professional wrestling being in tune with its audience, well, we may have it better now than ever since 1999. So even if somebody does come and yell at you that AEW doesn't have stories, just pat them on the head, give them a hug, and send them on their merry way. They don't mean it. They just wanted to have things come out of their mouth. And I don't really care what somebody like Eric Bischoff thinks when it comes to the AEW TV deal, and I would much rather sit down and have a nice chat about the TV product and what's working and what isn't. But that comes down to honesty, and none of us are stupid. You can see a grifter a mile off, because they can't stop grifting. So absolutely, let's keep the conversation, talk about the good and talk about the bad, but let's be positive and healthy, even though when someone says that, it's really annoying. So if you're mad at me now, I totally understand it. Please come and punch me in the face. But if you do want it to get better, there is so much chance of that happening now, because the foundations are there. I mean, we are living in a damn world where we have 2 major promotions on TV, and even though the gap is bigger than ever, they're still there, they still exist, and you've got to be on the bench if you want to get in the game. Also remember, and people have been saying this for years, competition creates creativity. So I'm going to ride this one until the day that I die. Shouldn't have said that. That's a morbid way to end the video. Now, of course, please do let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Before you like the video, share the video and subscribe. And if you would like more of my very, very frustrating tirades, you can click the video on the screen right now. Otherwise, thank you for joining, my friends. I appreciate every single one of you. Not you, Clive. You can get out of here. Definitely someone's going to be called Clive now and they're upset. Don't be silly. I love you more than ever. Goodbye.